Peace. I'm making this video in response to Anton Batey's video called Proof that Master Farad Muhammad is not God. Now he makes many charges or claims in his videos, and I see that a user named Elijah Muhammad 07 reposts a lot of his videos. And one of the charges in his video that I want to deal with is this letter that he says that Master Farad Muhammad misspells elementary words, and he quotes statements from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in his book Message to the Black Man and Our Savior Has Arrived, when he taught us that Master Farad Muhammad is all-knowing. And Anton Batey says, how can Master Farad Muhammad be all-knowing if he misspelled in this letter what he calls elementary words, and how can he be all-knowing when he speaks 16 languages and writes 10? Let's look at it. Now, what does it mean to be all-knowing? Does all-knowing mean that you can speak every language? Does all-knowing mean that you can write or spelling the white man's words correctly? Let's look at it, brothers and sisters. All-knowing, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that Master Farad Muhammad understands or knows the root of creation. Because to be all-knowing is to understand the laws and principles that governs the universe. And the laws and principles that governs the universe is the same laws and principles that governs the earth. And these laws and principles are universal regardless to what language you speak. Because a language is only the communication of thought. Like English is the white man's communication of thought. And in the white man's language, he has a word called atom. And the atom is a Greek word that means uncuttable and indivisible. Now we know when the white man made the atom bomb, he split the atom. So the atom has been cut and the atom has been divided. But the white man's language is only a reflection of his inferior thought. So spelling these white man's words right or wrong does not have anything to do with you having a being all-knowing. Because the white man had, what he has now is the modern atomic theory. Because he used to believe that the electrons in the atom spent around, let me back up. This white man named Ernest Rutherford, who he published his atomic theory describing the atom as having a central positive nucleus surrounded by negative orbiting electrons. This model suggests that most of the mass of the atom was contained in the small nucleus, and that the rest of the atom was mostly empty. This was their first atomic theory. But now they backtrack, or they develop their understanding of the atom, and now they say it's not the electrons don't orbit the nucleus. They call it an orbital now, because now it's the modern atomic theory, which means the theory still means that they don't understand the atom, and their language is going to reflect their misunderstandings of the atom. But now they have a more modern theory, which is the modern atomic theory. So let's say, for an example, for those of you who don't believe that Master Farad Muhammad is all-knowing, but let's just say, for the sake of argument, that Master Farad Muhammad understands fully the atom. Which one should he master when he comes to America and speaks this white man's language? Should he master the old atomic theory, or should he master the modern atomic theory to impress those who don't think that he's all-knowing and all-wise? Because both atomic theories are misunderstandings, and they're not complete understandings of the atom. So which one should Master Farad Muhammad know? If they're both the same, they're both not a complete understanding of the atom. So to master the white man's words, to spell them correctly, has nothing to do with supreme knowledge and being all-knowing. Let's take it a little step further. You could have a doctor and an engineer who's from China. You can have one that's from Japan, and you can have one that's from Korea. Let's say all of these different doctors and engineers from these different countries only speak their own language. Now, depending on their understanding of these universal laws, they don't have to know how to speak no one's language. But depending on their understanding of the universal laws that governs this earth and that governs the universe is what qualifies them on being successful in engineering and being successful as a medical doctor. It's not how you speak another person's language, because languages are only the communication of the thought of that particular people. And if that particular people's understanding of things is inferior, then their language is inferior. Like the white man just recently began to understand that the earth was not flat. So his language is going to be a reflection of his thought. So if his thought is inferior, then what is the purpose of, if you're all knowing, what is the purpose of knowing their language? There is no purpose. When you're dealing with a God that's all knowing, he's only dealing with that's right and exact. He's not dealing with this inferior knowledge and this inferior wisdom. And this is why the most honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us. And our Savior, he taught us in Savior's Day 1968 how strong is the foundation. And he taught us that the black man has been standing on a weak foundation. He said not 400 years, but 6,000 years. Now what does that mean? That means that for the whole 6,000 year period of Yaqub's grafted devil, the knowledge and the understanding has been inferior knowledge. It's not supreme. And this is why the devils, when they go among the Egyptians, they're so impressed with their building of the pyramids. Because the Egyptians was dealing with a right and exact understanding. This is what makes you all knowing, is how you understand the universal principles and the universal laws that governs the earth and the universe. Because when you're dealing with languages, you're only dealing with the communication of the thought of the people. And if that people's thought and understanding of the universal principles that governs the earth and the universe, then you're dealing with an inferior wisdom. And Master Farad Muhammad is not dealing in that. So I hope that I made this clear, because even further, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that in the hereafter, you're not even going to be able to speak the devil's language. He taught us in 20 years, you're not even going to be able to remember what you did in this devil's civilization. And he also taught us that that this wisdom, he taught us that a God does not build his world off of the wisdom of the previous God. Meaning, the white man's, Yaqub's grafted devils, 6,000 year history, the new world that's going to be built by Master Farad Muhammad, he's not going to use any of their knowledge and wisdom. Now, brothers and sisters, I hope I broke that down for some, but I'm going to continue to make these videos in response to some of these things that these brothers have been saying about Master Farad Muhammad. So brothers and sisters, stay tuned. Peace.